They called him arrogant. But what they never understood is that he was just done being treated like he was nothing. He wasn't trying to be above anyone. He was just tired of being beneath everyone. You see, there comes a moment in every man's life when he finally realizes no one's coming to save him. No one's clapping for him. No one's checking if he's okay. That's when he stops chasing approval and starts building his worth. They said he changed. They said he's cold now. But they'll never admit they were the reason he had to become this way. He used to be the type of man who cared too much. Always the one who reached out first. The one who said, sorry, just to keep the peace. The one who lowered his voice so no one would feel small around him. And yet, every time, they still walked all over him. They took his kindness for weakness, his silence for ignorance, his patience for permission. He gave everything, his time, his trust, his heart. And in return, he was made to feel like he was never enough. That's what broke him. Not the loss, not the loneliness, but realizing that the people he would have died for would have never done the same for him. So one day, he just went quiet. No big announcement. No dramatic goodbye. He just disappeared. And the world thought he lost himself. But that silence, that was the sound of a man rebuilding. While they gossiped, he healed. While they doubted him, he sharpened his mind. While they laughed behind his back, he learned to stand tall in front of his reflection. He wasn't out for revenge. He wasn't chasing validation anymore. He was chasing peace. He was chasing purpose. He was chasing the man he was always meant to become. Because here's the truth. When you finally start valuing yourself, it will look like arrogance to people who benefited from your self-doubt. They'll say you've changed, but what they really mean is, you stopped letting me control you. You stopped being available when it was convenient for me. You stopped apologizing for having standards. And that's exactly what scared them. Emotional DPH, relatable pain sus self-discovery. You see, he didn't become distant because he hated people. He became distant because he finally loved himself enough to stop staying where he wasn't respected. He realized not everyone deserves access to him. Not everyone gets to know his story, his struggle, or his soul. Because not everyone can handle the truth of who he's becoming. And when he stopped explaining himself, he started elevating himself. He started walking differently. Not because he thought he was better, but because for once, he knew his worth. He started saying no more often, not to be rude, but because peace costs more than approval. He stopped chasing people and started attracting purpose. That's the difference between arrogance and awareness. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Awareness says, I'm better than who I used to be. They won't tell you this, but valuing yourself is a dangerous act. It threatens the comfort of those who've always had easy access to you. It exposes people's intentions. It forces them to face their own lack of self-respect. And the moment you decide to stop begging for love, stop chasing validation, stop explaining your worth, that's when people will call you difficult, cold, selfish, arrogant. But don't let their words shake you, because what they call arrogance is just self-respect, reborn through pain. He wasn't arrogant. He was awakened. He was clear. He was done bending his spine for people who wouldn't even lift a finger for him. So if you're listening to this right now, and you've been called arrogant, just for finally standing up for yourself, let me tell you, that's not arrogance. That's growth. You're not cold. You're careful. You're not distant. You're focused. You're not rude. You're just done explaining what you deserve. Let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper your name in circles you've outgrown. Because while they're busy talking, you'll be busy transforming, and when you come back, you won't need to say a word. Your silence will speak for you. If this message hit your soul, then maybe, deep down, you know, you're in your silent chapter too. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe anyone your softness. You owe yourself your evolution. So stay silent, stay focused. And when you rise in such a way that the world won't even recognize you anymore. Because the man who learns to value himself becomes unstoppable. If you felt that, make sure you subscribe, because your comeback story has just begun. He stopped explaining himself. He stopped trying to prove his worth to people who only valued what he could give, not who he was. His silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was strategy. It was the moment the storm started to gather inside him. You could see it in his eyes. That calm that comes right before everything changes. He was done being the man who waited. He was becoming the man who prepared. While everyone thought he disappeared, he was working in the shadows, grinding in silence, healing without posting about it, studying himself, his patterns, his pain. He learned what made him break, and he built himself in a way that nothing could break him again. That's what most people will never understand. They think power comes from shouting louder, showing more, being seen. But real power is quiet. It's disciplined. It doesn't need attention. It commands it naturally. He didn't wake up one morning and suddenly become confident. No. Confidence was forged through the nights he couldn't sleep, through the days he questioned if he'd ever make it out, through the moments where he had no one but himself. Those were the hours that turned his silence into armor. Every push up, every rejection, every heartbreak, he turned all of it into fuel. He built himself piece by piece, while the world wasn't watching. And that's what made him dangerous. Because when you rise without applause, you learn to no longer depend on it. He stopped trying to convince people to understand him. He understood himself, and that was enough. He didn't argue anymore. He didn't chase closure. He just smiled, nodded, and kept walking. That quiet confidence confused people. They thought he was emotionless, but he wasn't. He had just mastered control. The type of control that comes when you've already been broken before and learned how to rebuild with precision. Every morning he woke up and reminded himself, no one's coming to save you. You are the plan. You are the rescue mission. You are the answer. He didn't need motivation anymore. He had purpose. And when a man finds his purpose, the whole world feels it. He becomes sharper, calmer, harder to shake. His silence stops being soft. It becomes sharp. People started to notice the shift. The same ones who once doubted him were now watching from a distance, wondering what changed. They couldn't tell, but they could feel it. He moved differently, talked less, worked more. He wasn't interested in proving them wrong anymore. He was focused on proving himself right. And that's the point where the game changes. When your focus moves from revenge to refinement, from noise to mastery, you win in ways they can't even process. He stopped seeking validation. Instead, he created results. He didn't post quotes about discipline. He lived them. He didn't talk about being different. He became it. He didn't ask for support. He built systems. And slowly, the same silence that once made him invisible started making him undeniable. That's what true transformation looks like. It's not loud. It's not pretty. It's not something you share on social media. It's built in private and revealed through results. There were nights he still felt the weight of everything. Nights he wanted to give up. Nights he questioned whether this pain would ever end. But every time he wanted to quit, he remembered how it felt to be ignored, to be doubted, to be underestimated. And he whispered to himself, never again. Those two words became his prayer, his fuel, his fire. Never again would he let someone make him forget who he is. Never again would he settle for less than he deserves. Never again would he hand his worth to anyone else. And that's how the transformation truly began. Not in a gym, not in a hustle, but in his mind. The battlefield was always internal. He learned to control his thoughts, his emotions, his reactions. He trained himself to respond, not react. To move with intention, not impulse. And slowly, the chaos inside him turned into clarity. He stopped running from the noise. He became the silence. Now when he walks into a room, people feel it. That quiet power, that grounded energy. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the calm that comes when you no longer chase anything outside of yourself. He doesn't explain where he's been. He doesn't justify what he's doing, because the truth is, he doesn't need to. The results speak in a language louder than words ever could. He used to want them to see his worth. Now he doesn't care if they do. He knows it. He carries it. It's in his tone, his pace, his silence. That's the power of a man who rebuilt himself in the dark. He's not driven by ego anymore. He's driven by purpose. He's not chasing people anymore. He's chasing potential. And once you reach that point, no one can take it from you. This is what they don't tell you. Healing changes your walk. Growth changes your tone. Peace changes your priorities. Once you taste peace, chaos becomes boring. Once you find self-respect, validation loses its flavor. Once you know your worth, you'll never tolerate less again. He went silent and came back dangerous, not because he became ruthless, but because he became clear. Clear about what matters. Clear about who he is. Clear about where he's going. That clarity is lethal, because when a man knows himself, the world can no longer deceive him. So if you're in your silent season right now, don't rush it. Don't explain it. Don't break it. Let them think you've disappeared. Because one day, you'll return, and your presence will say everything your silence never could. Your glow will speak. Your peace will echo. Your energy will command. He wasn't arrogant. He was awakened. He wasn't cold. He was composed. He wasn't distant. He was finally close to himself. That's the power of a man who stopped chasing love and started becoming it. And when he finally stood in front of the mirror again, he didn't see the same man who once begged to be understood. He saw the man who learned to understand himself. The man who survived the silence, rebuilt in darkness, and returned unrecognizable. He smiled, because now he knew. The silence was never punishment, it was preparation. He didn't plan to come back, not to prove anything, not to get revenge. He came back because it was time. Time to walk through the same world that once broke him, this time, untouchable. No announcement, no grand return. Just quiet steps that carried the weight of every battle he fought alone. People didn't recognize him at first. Something in his presence had changed. He didn't need validation anymore. He was validation. His silence was louder now, his eyes calmer, his energy heavier. You could feel it before he even spoke. That's the thing about transformation. It's not something you tell the world about. It's something the world eventually feels without you saying a word. The same ones who once laughed now watched in confusion. The same people who whispered behind his back now whispered his name. But he didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He didn't even look back. He had outgrown the need for applause. Because once you rebuild yourself from dust, no crown impresses you anymore. Every insult, every rejection, every door that slammed in his face, it all served its purpose. It taught him how to move without noise, how to win without validation, and how to love himself without needing approval. They thought silence broke him, but silence built him. That's the irony. They mistook his distance for defeat. They didn't realize he was loading. When you've been through enough pain, something inside you changes permanently. You stop fighting for attention. You stop proving your worth. You stop chasing what was never meant for you. You start walking differently, breathing differently. You become a man the world can't manipulate anymore. And that's dangerous, because once you see your own value, no one can ever make you feel small again. He stood in front of the same places where they mocked him, the same streets where he was laughed at, the same rooms that made him feel invisible. But now, he was different. He didn't need to say a word. His presence was enough. His silence was heavy, like thunder waiting behind calm clouds. People felt it. That mix of mystery and mastery. The kind of energy that says, I've been through hell, and I'm still here. He didn't need revenge. His existence was revenge enough. His peace became his weapon. His success became his silence. Because when you rise from the ashes, your very presence becomes a reminder to everyone who doubted you that they were wrong. But he wasn't focused on proving them wrong anymore. He was focused on becoming so much more than they ever imagined. That's the power of self-respect. That's what happens when you finally stop chasing people and start chasing purpose. You stop begging to be chosen. You start building yourself so well that the world has no choice but to notice. Not because you demanded attention, but because your evolution became too loud to ignore. And somewhere in that silence, he realized something. He didn't need to come back for them. He needed to come back for himself. For the man who once doubted if he'd make it. For the version of himself that used to stay awake at night wondering if it would all ever make sense. He came back for him, the boy who believed he wasn't enough. The man who almost gave up. Because now, he understood, being underestimated was his greatest gift. It gave him the freedom to rebuild without expectations, to grow without noise, to master his craft in peace. And now, every step he took was proof that he didn't need anyone's permission to rise. He just needed time. When you go silent long enough, you start hearing things you couldn't before. The sound of your own potential. The voice inside you that says, keep going. The quiet confidence that whispers you've got this. That voice becomes your compass, your weapon, your guide. That's how you move from broken to dangerous. From noise to mastery. Now, when people look at him, they don't see arrogance. They see discipline. They don't see distance. They see boundaries. They don't see silence. They see strength. He's not the same. He's evolved, refined by pain, hardened by truth, softened by wisdom. He's proof that silence doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes, it's just a man preparing to come back stronger than ever. And that's exactly what he did. He came back unrecognizable, not because of the money, not because of the status, but because of the peace, that unshakable, unbothered calm that can't be faked. You can't buy it. You can't copy it. You can only earn it. Through solitude, through heartbreak, through rebuilding yourself piece by piece until the noise no longer touches you. Now when they whisper his name, it's not out of pity, it's out of awe, out of respect, out of the quiet fear people feel when they realize the one they counted out never needed their approval to begin with. And that's the message for you. Don't rush to prove your worth. Don't chase validation. Don't fear being misunderstood. Sit in your silence. Master your mind. Build your strength quietly. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them laugh. One day, they'll whisper too. But when that day comes, don't look back for applause. Just keep walking. Keep building. Keep evolving. Because your silence isn't your weakness. It's your preparation. And one day, when you return, they won't recognize you. They'll just whisper your name and wonder how you did it. And you'll smile, because you'll know you went silent and came back dangerous.